This is for the ones that like to glue. Yo, this is for the ones that like to glue. This is for the ones that like to hitting you with this eclectic organic style, activating your goosebumps and making you smile. It feels good the way the bass and keys flow together. At the same time, it's raining in sunny weather. The beat's popping, the guitar is sweet, quite unique the way we raise.
Alrighty. Good morning, good evening to those of you in the U.S. It must be like 2:46 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time, and it's 8:46 Central European Time. I just wanted to log on today and go over a little bit of these interviews, and I did watch some of the interviews. I didn't watch all of it, but some of the things that I found from the beginning are pretty hilarious. Now, the first thing I believe you're going to notice with these interviews, let me open it up here, is that one interview, the interview with Trump, the sister who is interviewing him, or a lady who is interviewing Trump, is basically throwing him softballs. She's really like kissing his ass. I mean, it's a kiss ass interview. Kamala Harris's interview on the same night is a hostile one. The individual interviewing her on Fox is extremely hostile, totally different environment. Um, right. So it's kind of like very strange when you see some of the feedback, and the response is like when you go to the when you go to the YouTube page and you look at what's written under it on Fox, it's like, oh wow, he's a great guy, man. Excellent question. Wow, all of this. And then when you go to the Kamala Harris interview, it's like she never answers questions. Da 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 da. It's like total night and day experience, you know. So I just wanted to touch on that for a second. Now, let me pull up just a little bit of this Trump interview to give you an idea of what I was just saying here, just so you can see it for yourself. Even the names, one is like, Donald Trump, Falcon Air Show, and the other one on Fox is Kamala Harris, disastrous interview, right? But here, let's just show you the environment. Let's start off with something really nice. And oh man, we're just so happy to have you. And by the way, can I tell you how great you are a million times? Let me just give you the proper introduction that you deserve. La la la. So let's get into it here. Let's see. Let me open it up.
The 45th president of the United States, the Republican nominee for this year's presidential election, Donald J. Trump.
Wait a second. Is this opening up? 2 seconds. I got to change the layout here. Is this the layout? Do I have to roll like this or what? I can't change it. Oh, wow. I can't change it when I'm live, but that's okay, y'all. Here, let me flip over to this. It's okay. All right. And now let's let it roll.
Welcome. So I have to tell you,
wow.
I'm getting a little taste of what it's like to roll with you. So early voting, just so you know, for the state of Georgia just began, and there were
Yeah. This is just the mobile one, Donnie. I don't know, for people in the mobile, I just realized you can't change it back when you're live. I was going through it. I thought you could change it when you're live, but it's not possible. But in any case, this will have to do for now. So
already at 250,000 people in early vote. I want to share with you Senators Warnock and Ossoff.
okay, so they're attributing the early vote. She is herself. This is Fox, obviously, to Trump running for office. So everybody's out to run for Trump, although there's no evidence of that yet. They just, assuming that works in Trump's favor, But let's
Mayor Bottoms and Atlanta Mayor Bottoms and Amber Thurman's family have come out on a press call. You know this, but early voting is a sign that people are coming out, as you know,
right.
But it's also a sign that there might be a few people who have something to say. So I want to share with you Senators Warnock and Ossoff, Mayor Bottoms and Atlanta Mayor Bottoms, and Amber Thurman's family have come out on a press call. This fight would start. And, oh, by the way, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota who wants to...
Did they just cut that? It looked like they just cut that part out. Okay, so this must be edited already. I did hear stories that actually they don't show. Fox is not showing the whole thing. That they're only showing clips of it. And also I believe the Kamala Harris interview too. But let's see here.
To be the next vice president, his wife is showing up.
Where?
Tomorrow. I want to get your reaction to something, because I was a little thrown aback about how quickly this fight would start. And, oh, by the way, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota who wants to be the next vice president, his wife is showing up.
Where?
Tomorrow, here.
All right.
Yep, she has an issue with the women's issues town hall. All right, so let's take a look at what Senator Warnock had to say. I want to get, for the first time, former President Trump's reaction to what's going on here in Georgia. Let's watch.
To not vote is a vote. It's a vote for Donald Trump. It's to send this man one step closer to the White House, which finally, let me say, will be literally dangerous for so many of the people that we know. Dangerous, as we've demonstrated, for women. But this man, let me remind the black men
are at this town hall. This is a pre-buttal from a short time ago.
Now, did you see that? They just cut it. It's cut. They just cut that whole thing. But this is the only one they have up on Fox News right now. So it'll have to do. I don't know why they did this. What the point is, maybe they want you to go to the cable network and pay for the cable version. I have no clue, but let's continue.
Your reaction?
Well, I would say this. We just got the endorsement of Border Patrol all over the country. Border Patrol, virtually every sheriff's department, every police department, the Fraternal Order of Police, 400,000 police, the biggest in the country. We have every single, I don't think they have a policeman or a policewoman single. And we have the border, we had the safest border in the history of our country. Now we have the most unsafe border in the history of our country. So when you talk about safety, we had, it was just announced, as you know, last week, 13,099 murderers were released into our country. Drug dealers, drug addicts, everybody is released into our country.
2 seconds. Now, I just wanted to fact check. So let me pull this up real quick, because, that's what we have to do. Yeah, you have to fact check this, and that's part of the this is ridiculous. Okay, so let's go over here to Chat GDP. It's sad. I'm glad that I'm here to do this fact checking, and you need it, because really, when you're on Fox News, this is an example of, I was telling you, the environment that they set for Trump versus Kamala. Trump, it's completely like, soft paws, cotton candy, this kind of stuff. And with Kamala Harris, it's like, they're throwing grenades, nuclear bombs at her. They're basically like stopping her. They will ask her a question that takes a minute to ask or 30 seconds to ask. As soon as she started answering the question, they will stop her 3 seconds later if they don't like the beginning of the answer, So it was like a total different thing. You can see this woman hasn't cut him off. So even just from the beginning, there's that stark difference. But let me go over right now and pull this up for y'all so you can see something. Trump did say that he has the endorsement of the police, right? Of all the police. Now, I hope you can see this. I know it's a little small, but don't worry, you'll be able to hear it as I play it. So let me play this now for you guys so you can hear the reality of it. I asked ChatGPT, does Trump here? Well, let's see the question. Let me see. Does Donald Trump have all the police departments endorsing him for this election? All right, let's find out.
No, Donald Trump does not have the endorsement of all police departments for the 2024 election. However, he has received significant support from some law enforcement unions and organizations. For example, in the 2020 election, Trump was endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, FOP, the largest police union in the United States. Additionally, he gained support from other law enforcement groups like the National Association of Police Organizations, NAPO. Endorsements can vary widely by department and organization, and not all police departments officially endorse political candidates, as many remain neutral in elections. Local police unions and individual officers may choose to endorse candidates, but endorsements across all police departments are not a standard practice. For the 2024 election, it is expected that some police unions and law enforcement groups may endorse Trump again, but he does not have universal law enforcement support across all departments.
Okay, now if you could hear that one, press 1 in the chat. Let me ask the same question for Kamala Harris. Does Kamala Harris have any police endorsements? Police, what did they call that? Police, yeah, I guess you would say police, or yeah, I think it's that. It's difficult to get that kind of endorsement too, because it kind of doesn't go with the job, but let's see here. Let's see. Okay, let's play it now. Is it done? Yeah, let's play here.
Kamala Harris does not appear to have widespread endorsements from police unions or law enforcement organizations, especially in comparison to some of her political counterparts like Donald Trump. As a former prosecutor and California Attorney General, Harris has had complex relationships with law enforcement. During her vice presidential run in 2020, some law enforcement figures expressed concerns about her policies, particularly her stance on police reform and criminal justice issues. While she has received endorsements from organizations and leaders who support reforms within law enforcement, major police unions like the Fraternal Order of Police did not endorse her. However, she has had support from individual law enforcement leaders who appreciate her experience as a prosecutor and her work on criminal justice reform. The tension between her support for reform and maintaining public safety has created a mixed reception among law enforcement communities.
Okay.
If you're interested in a more specific list of individual endorsements, I can look further into those.
It's interesting because it says Donald Trump does not have the endorsement of. Okay, now let me just ask, what police departments does Donald Trump have an endorsement from? Let's just see which one that is. He hasn't received endorsements from specific departments. Look at this. So I'm just, don't get me wrong. The idea here is to be real about this, right? It's no need to lie or skew the data for anybody. I hope people that come here would appreciate that, and because there's no need to manipulate the facts just because I support Kamala Harris. I support her. I know why I support her. I can articulate why I can support her clearly, and if those reasons weren't there, then I wouldn't. But equally so, I would think that you would want the same for your candidate if that was Trump. You see what I mean? If your candidate is Trump, I'm sure you would want to know the facts about it. So let's see what it says here.
Donald Trump has not received endorsements from specific police departments, as individual departments generally do not endorse political candidates due to their role as public institutions. However, he has garnered support from major police unions and law enforcement organizations, particularly during the 2020 election, and may see similar endorsements in 2024. Some of the key endorsements from law enforcement organizations include: 1. Fraternal Order of Police, FOP. The FOP is the largest police union in the U.S., representing hundreds of thousands of officers. They endorsed Trump in 2020, praising his stance on law enforcement and public safety. 2. National Association of Police Organizations, NAPO. NAPO, which represents thousands of police officers across the U.S., also endorsed Trump in 2020, citing his steadfast and very public support for law enforcement. 3. New York City Police Benevolent Association BA, the NYCPBA, one of the largest local police unions in the country, endorsed Trump in 2020. This was significant because it was the first time in their history that they had endorsed a presidential candidate. These organizations, which represent large groups of police officers, are likely to play a key role in his support base among law enforcement for the 2024 election. However, specific police departments, as governmental entities, do not officially endorse candidates.
Okay. Who do Kamala? What? Well, let me just go back to his statement here to make sure I get his statement right. Let's pull it back up. Let's see here. I don't want to take too long. I'm sorry about this, but I just need to make. Oh, hold on. I just need to make sure that I'm hearing this right. Okay, so let's go back to this one now.
We've never had anything like this. We've never had a mess like this. 625,000 criminals released into our country, along with 21 million people. We have no idea who they are. And, you know,
the 45th president of the United States, the Republican nominee for this year's presidential election, Donald J. Trump. Welcome. So I have to tell you,
wow.
I'm getting a little taste of what it's like to roll with you. So early voting, just so you know, for the state of Georgia just began, and they're already at 250,000 people in early vote. That will, I want to share with you, Senators Warnock and Ossoff, Mayor Bottoms and Atlanta Mayor Bottoms, and Amba Thurman's family have come out on a press call. You know this, but early voting is a sign that people are coming out, as you know,
right.
But it's also a sign that there might be a few people who have something to say. So I want to share with you, Senators Warnock and Ossoff, Mayor Bottoms and Atlanta Mayor Bottoms, and Amba Thurman's family have come out on a press call. This fight would start. Oh, by the way, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota who wants to be the next vice president, his wife is showing up.
Where?
Tomorrow. I want to get your reaction to something, because I was a little thrown aback about how quickly this fight would start. Oh, by the way, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota who wants to be the next vice president, his wife is showing up.
Where?
Tomorrow, here.
Sorry.
Yep, she has an issue with the women's issues town hall. All right, so let's take a look at what Senator Warnock had to, for the first time, former President Trump's reaction to what's going on here in Georgia. Let's watch.
If you not vote is a vote. It's a vote for Donald Trump. It's to send this man one step closer to the White House, which finally, let me say, will be literally dangerous for so many of the people that we know. Dangerous, as we've demonstrated, for women. But this man, let me remind the black men
are at this town hall. This is a pre-buttal from a short time ago. Your reaction?
Well, I would say this. We just got the endorsement of Border Patrol all over the country. Border Patrol, virtually every sheriff's department, every police department, the Fraternal Order of Police, 400,000 police,
Now,
the biggest in the country.
Now, you see, Trump is openly lying. He doesn't have those endorsements. And Trump does this. Now, let me just make sure. Police endorse Trump 2024. Let's see here. Let's just go here. He's talking about all. Okay, it says here that Trump. Hold on. It says the FOP. Does the FOP endorse him? Okay, hold on. Let's see here. Patrick Yo's, national president of the Fraternal Order of Police, announced today that the members of the FOP voted to endorse Donald J. Trump for president of the United States. Okay, okay. So there you have it. I'm glad I double checked this. Public safety and border security will be important issues. Uh, let's see here. What else? During the first term, President Trump made it clear he supported law enforcement and border security. Yo said. All right, so there it is. I'm gonna put this in there. So the FOP supported Trump. So let me put that in the chat real quick. Damn, I'm glad I double checked that, but I do, and it's clear. But let's go to the next one. Let me just see here real quick. Have border patrol, border patrol, or police. All over the country endorsed Trump. Let's see here. Okay, they said he got the endorsement. Border Patrol Union. Okay, from National Border Patrol Council, Fraternal Order of Police, National Association of Police, NOP, NBA, New York City Benevolent Association. Okay, there you have it. So he have those. No. That says 2020 though. Okay, NBPA, National Border Patrol Police. It says 2020. Okay, you know what it is? Now let me go over here to Google real quick and just see what it says here. Border Patrol endorse Trump 2024. Okay, now in Arizona, they endorsed him. Okay. Okay. National Border Patrol Council. Okay. Trump receives endorsement from Border Patrol. Okay, so damn. So maybe he's telling the truth, but let's see here. Yeah, we can leave it at that. Maybe he's telling the truth about that. Apparently he has some, but is that a surprise? Generally speaking, police get behind the person that they feel is going to, how can I say this, not scrutinize their work. So in the United States of America, that's been a historic problem. Lack of accountability when it comes to police brutality or deaths, by police officers of unarmed persons, you know, flagrant, you could say, attack, flagrant, physical harm being done to others. Look, we had, for example, George Floyd. Everyone witnessed that. He had a $20 bill. Apparently, the kiosk or the corner store man reported it. $20 counterfeit bill, right? Police come to question him, and everyone saw what happened. He was pushed to the ground, and they basically killed the man. That's what happened. He died. The police officers are in jail. There's multiple ones that went into jail, and everyone had to watch that. That was displayed live on TV, and people were although everyone knew what they were doing is wrong, people were afraid to help George Floyd themselves because they know they could also be harmed by the police that way, and that's not good for police either. So, Trump, although he came out and spoke about it, there's been other times when he's questioned about it. There was a shooting of a woman. She called the police. The police came to her home. This is recent, in the last 6 months. Police came to her home, and Trump has already been asked about this. He was asked at the, Black National Press or journalist meet where he was invited to, right? what is it, MBA, something like that, MBJ, something like that. But in any case, everyone saw it. Females, 4 female journalists asked him some questions. He got pretty hostile, right? And he said some really horrific things. But when he was asked about this, he said he didn't know anything about it. Really, he doesn't know the details of it. Well, you know, that's too bad for him, because what happened was is that the woman called the police. The police showed up. They came into her house. She was cooking some food in the kitchen, and she has a pot in her hand. And then all of a sudden, the police officer pulls out a gun and shoots her, and she dies in her home. So there's a problem. Anyone could, any citizen who's not a police officer, who is unarmed, who calls the police, can easily understand why that creates a problem between the citizen, the civilian, and the police officers. It makes it hard for citizens to trust police, and civilians shouldn't be afraid of the police, and that's the problem right there. Because when you're afraid of the police, you might act in a way that causes the police, to shoot you or kill you. They can easily say. And so, when Trump gets these endorsements, it's kind of scary for civilians, because we know that Trump just normally in his speech promotes violence. He said it many times. He said that the police, they should bang his head, teach him a lesson. When they arrest him, if they don't want to follow, he promoted police brutality. I mean, he backs up police brutality pretty much. Whether he does it on purpose or not, who knows? But it is very, very scary when you see a person like that get those endorsements. So I'm not sure what the police are hoping for, but when you have a person with 30 something felonies, right, who tried to undermine the free and fair elections, who told people to go to the Capitol building and scared them, put them in a frenzy about, you're not going to have a life anymore if you don't stop it. And they go inside of the Capitol building violently, end up killing an officer. One officer has to shoot someone to stop them from getting into the inner chamber after they've already ransacked the outer chambers. It's pretty troubling to see police unions endorsing a person like that, because that is normally the type of activity they don't want civilians involved in. So they kind of make it seem difficult to understand what they want out of civilians, when on one hand they promote that behavior and endorse it, and endorse the person who called for it pretty much, and according to the FBI, right? And then on the other hand, they expect the behavior of other civilians to be different. That's troubling. But let's continue to play some
country. We have every single. I don't think they have a policeman or a policewoman single. And we have the border. We're the safest border in the history of our country. Now we have the most.
He has. Let's see here. Are there any security agents? Let's see here. Let's comma Department of Justice or any other. Let's see here. Criminal investigative persons who have worked for Trump that now endorse Kamala Harris. I don't know. I hope I wrote that right, but let's just see here. Okay. So here, let's see here. Look, I don't think people have come out and endorsed Harris, right? But let's pull it up so you can hear what it says. This is too funny, man. I don't know what to say. Hold on, is it here now? Yeah, it's here. Let's pull it up. Oh my goodness. All right, there we have it. Let's play what it said. But maybe I didn't ask the question exactly how I should have, but here.
As of now, there are no well-known security agents, Department of Justice, DOJ officials, or other criminal investigative personnel who have worked directly for Donald Trump and have publicly endorsed Kamala Harris. However, some former high-level officials and national security experts who served under or alongside Trump have expressed opposition to him and endorsed the Biden-Harris ticket in the 2020 election. Notable examples of former officials who have supported Biden-Harris. 1. Miles Taylor, a former Department of Homeland Security DHS official who served during Trump, endorsed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in 2020. Taylor was highly critical of Trump's handling of national security and public safety issues. 2. John Bolton. While not endorsing Harris directly, John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, expressed strong opposition to Trump's re-election and supported the Biden-Harris administration. Bolton has been a vocal critic of Trump's foreign and national security policies. 3. Various DOJ officials and national security experts. Over 70 former national security officials, including DOJ officials, endorsed Biden and Harris in 2020, arguing that Trump was unfit for office. While their endorsement was for the Biden-Harris ticket as a whole, this represents broad support for Harris in national security circles opposed to Trump's leadership. These figures didn't specifically endorse Kamala Harris as an individual, but expressed support for the Biden-Harris administration.
Okay, so I can see this. I didn't write it correctly. So let's go to Wiki, because Wiki seems to have a list. Wiki has a list here. So let's go over to Wiki real quick so you can see now. Let me make sure that's up. Okay, you can see it now. Now this is the list. Here it is. List of former Trump administration officials who endorsed. Now, first of all, I would just like to say 70 former national security officials. I don't know what Trump is thinking, but this is the highest form of security and policing and investigating. So I don't know, if it really matters if the quote unquote police unions or border, because these individuals, are higher up the scale, and they are all endorsing Kamala Harris. 70 former national security officials. 70 former, all right, Alyssa Griffin, White House Director or Strategic Communications Press Secretary. She worked for Trump. She's endorsing Harris. I wonder why. Department of Defense Press Secretary to the Vice President, right? That's her. Now, let's see here. Who else? Stephanie Grissom, White House Press Secretary again. White House Communications Director is now supporting Trump. Let's see here. Cassidy Hutchinson, Executive Assistant to the White House Chief of Staff. Now, we used to work for Trump, now endorsing Harris. I'm sorry. All these people are endorsing Harris. Sarah Matthews, Deputy White House Press Secretary. She was under Trump. She now supports Harris. Omarosa, everybody remembers Omarosa. She now supports Harris. I'm sorry again. Anthony Scaramucci worked for Trump. Now she's supporting Harris. Olivia Troye, Homeland Security Advisor to the lead COVID-19 advisor, Mike Pence. She now supports Trump. Supports Harris. Mike Pence supports Harris. And that's his vice secretary. That was his that was the vice president. He was the second in command under Trump. He's like, no. Homeland Security. John Mitnick, former Department of Homeland Security under Trump, supports Harris. There's so many people here. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. You can't go through all the names, but in any case, people should look that up if they're curious about it. So, just trying to follow up on Trump's statements here. So let's go back to Trump.
Unsafe border in the history of our country. So when you talk about safety, we had, it was just announced, as you know, last week, 13,099 murderers were released into our country. Drug dealers, drug addicts, everybody is released into our country. We've never had anything like this. We've never had a mess like this. 625,000 criminals released into our country, along with 21 million people. We have no idea who they are. And, that's just a soundbite. I don't know this guy, but he got lucky as hell to win, I'll tell you that much. But it's a soundbite that they like to use. But remember this, law enforcement's with me 100%, and we have to keep our community safe. And we have to take these murders at 1 million people. We have no idea who they are. And, that's just a soundbite. I don't know this guy, but he got lucky as hell to win, I'll tell you that much. But it's a soundbite that they like to use. But remember this, law enforcement's with me 100%, and we have to keep our community safe. And we have to take these murderers that they've allowed to come through open borders without knowing anything about them. We have to take those people and we have to remove them. We have to get them out of our country.
We're going to get into all of it. I want, first of all, a show of hands. Who voted early today? All right. Sounds good. Oh, and they're waving.
Who did they vote for? I wonder.
That was the first thing you wanted to know.
Are we
how
allowed
many
to
voted
ask
for me?
that? Who did you vote?
So another show of hands. How many of you actually feel good about how the economy is right now? No.
Yeah. So you could see this is I'm not going to go too far into this, but this is a cotton candy softball situation for Trump, because you could see they're just basically asking him about the same talking points that they use. It's always about the border. It's the economy, right? So because a lot of people, the U.S. economy is so very large, and a lot of people come from communities that are isolated from each other. Like what a person's experience is in Arkansas may not be what a person's experience is in Minnesota, for example, right? And it obviously isn't. Minnesota's doing quite well. In fact, they have strong housing housing programs for middle class and poor, educational programs. They're doing a different model than a place like Arizona does in general to its population on the state level. So, people tend to do a little bit different. It depends on where you live. So some people might be having a worse situation than others, but generally speaking, people understand that the U.S. economy is much stronger today than it was under Trump, period. There's no question. As soon as Trump was out of office, the economy began to rise again. Now, what part of the economy is growing? Jobs. What kind of jobs do people have? These kind of things. That's another issue that people can debate. But I'm saying all this to say that most people felt like the COVID checks, was something that they needed, and they looked forward to maybe having that extended, right? The only thing is that you need Congress to do that, right? Congress has to be willing to go in, just like it was willing under Trump. The Democrats were willing to sign some of these things, COVID checks. They were willing to do it. The problem is that under Biden, Republicans are hostile. They're not willing to. You can see they're not even willing to go into session on the hurricane season, where there was already just 2 disasters back to back, and there's another one on the way, and there will be a few, there's going to be 1 or 2 more coming for the rest of the season. But the leader of Congress of the majority party, what is it, Mike Johnson, I'm sorry, has said that he's not going to call Congress back in to discuss the budget for FEMA, to look into the details, to investigate, to find out if any rumors are true, to find out how much money is needed, to find out how much is done on the ground, to do a comprehensive analysis. And, he's not going to call the Democrats and the Republicans in to do that until after the election. That's what he just stated in the last couple of days. So you can see there's a difference in how the parties roll. So you could say Trump gets points this is my opinion, of course, Trump gets points because he uses disaster moments, and Democrats don't have the heart to refuse Americans to play politics in disaster moments. However, Republicans, that's essentially all they do. When a disaster strikes, Democrats take action. Democrats come to the Republicans in good faith, and the Republicans slam the door in their face. This has happened repeatedly, just over, it's gotten worse over time, but this has been the pattern for Republicans for more than just under the last 4 years. It's been a pattern with Obama. It's been a pattern, it's just seems to get worse and worse. It's always been a little bit that way, back and forth also sometimes, but it's become very extreme now. And so although the Democrats tend to write a lot of bills, also Democrats tend to Democratic presidents tend to call Congress or ask Congress to go into session to resolve certain things that are problematic regarding societal issues, like housing, right? This kind of stuff, the economy, just all these different things. Education. You saw the education bill get passed, for student debt. That's big money for individual students that have debt. That's not a little bit. That's not $1,000. We're talking about 25,000 on average for 7.1 million African Americans and others, because you see the Supreme Court doesn't pass anything that's just for one specific group due to discrimination. The Supreme Court right now doesn't deal with discrimination in a systemic level. They reject that always. So, but if you make it for everybody, they will. So that's 7.1 African Americans. And you can imagine how many other people are happy to have the student debt relief. But this is a lot more than the COVID. So you could see there's a split. A lot of Americans didn't even go to college, right? A lot of Americans, it's not even can you afford it. A lot of Americans just, aren't interested in college, or they can't afford it, maybe, but afford it is a questionable thing. Maybe you can't. Maybe you need assistance with that. But you can see Trump's not big on that for those people in the first place. So yeah. So anyway, let's continue. Let's listen a little bit more.
Yeah.
You have our first question on the economy. We will start there. Your first name, please, and tell us your hometown.
My name is Lisa, and I live in the city of Milton. First of all, welcome back to Georgia, President Trump.
Thank you very much.
Americans are concerned about the state of our economy. Democrats argue that your policies favor the wealthy, especially through tax cuts for billionaires, while the middle class continues to struggle these last 3.5 years under the Biden-Harris administration. Could you outline your plans to revitalize the economy again as president, and policies that specifically support the middle class when reelected?
Sure. Thank you very much. Great question. And sort of an easy question for me to answer, because we have tremendous wealth in this country, but it's under our feet. It's called liquid gold. And we're going to bring down your energy costs. And with that, everything's going to follow. We're also going to make it possible for companies to.
Well, we've been through this before. Drilling is in the private sector. That's corporations to do drilling. That's not the government. So that's out of, if Trump doesn't actually say, I'll give you an example, that I'm going to call Congress into session to write a bill that guarantees that there's no price gouging by the oil companies that are drilling in the United States. He has yet to say that. You see, he's pretending, which people have told him before, that first of all, the United States of America is drilling right now more than it ever has in the history of its country. The United States of America under Biden is drilling more than it ever has in the history of the country. And under Biden, it's selling more oil than it ever has in the history of the country. And that the United States is the #1 oil producer in the world right now under Biden. So even Biden has said, they've said it. Biden and Harris have said corporations are price gouging. And they're talking about they're not being hostile when they say it, but they're not leaving out the oil companies. They're trying to appeal to the good nature so that they don't have hostile corporations being hostile to them. They're trying to reason with corporations, but the truth of the matter is that they didn't bring the cost of gas down, gas and oil down, when they could have, and not as much as they could. Why? Because the tendency is that in an emergency, they make more money than they've ever made, and corporations tend to want to do that rather than make less money. That's just how corporations work. So you need a president, and you need congressional members that are willing to go in and do something about corporations price gouging, including the oil companies. You see, I mean, it's just that simple. Drilling more, you could see we're already drilling more. What did that do? That just meant they made more money. The oil companies. Did it bring the price down? Not really. If you ask Americans, Americans are still complaining about the price of gas right now. So, what is Trump going to do different than Biden? That's what I want to hear. But again, it's not just oil. The economy is not just oil. The United States economy is global. It's multifaceted. It's not one dimensional. And if you want to ask somebody about it, you should ask people that know about it when it has grown year after year after year. That's not Trump. Trump didn't have an economy that grew year after year. No, actually, it went down, you see, under Trump. So it went up a little bit and then it went down. Under Biden, it's gone up, and it's been up 6 points past where it was with Trump. You see what I mean? So in any case, let's
to come into our country again. We've lost so many businesses. If you're in furniture making, like in North Carolina country, we had never had an economy. And remember this, we also had the safest border.
You see how they just cut that out? They cut his answers out, y'all. And this is the only one that I could find. And other vloggers, I'm talking about top ones that are reporting on political news, reporting on the election cycle. They've all said they have cut out all of Trump's poor answers. They said the only thing that you're going to get to hear is the answers that sound halfway normal. Trump cannot speak on the economy. He just can't. He cannot speak on many topics. But what you're hearing right here is they cut it right in the middle. That's exactly what you just heard. Look, right. They just cut his whole goddamn answer out.
A soundbite. I don't know this guy, but he got lucky as hell to win. I'll tell you that much. But it's a soundbite that they like to use. But remember this: law enforcement's with me 100%, and we have to keep our community safe. And we have to take these murderers at 1 million people. We have no idea who they are. And, that's just a soundbite. I don't know this guy.
I'm sorry.
The famous graph that I looked at, my all-time favorite.
About the state of our economy.
Here we go. Let's hear it.
Democrats argue that your policies favor the wealthy, especially through tax cuts for billionaires, while the middle class continues to struggle these last 3.5 years under the Biden-Harris administration. Could you outline your plans to revitalize the economy again as president, and policies that specifically support the middle class when reelected?
Sure. Thank you very much. Great question.
Now watch, when he starts talking about drill, all of a sudden they clipped out. They clipped it because he can't talk about the economy. The man just rambles on.
It's sort of an easy question for me to answer.
Right. That's projection. That means it's a hard question for him to answer.
Because we have tremendous wealth in this country, but it's under our feet. It's called liquid gold. And we're going to bring down your energy costs. And with that, everything's going to follow. We're also going to make it possible for companies to come into our country again. We've lost so many businesses. If you're in furniture making, like in North Carolina country, we had never.
You see the cut? You see, they cut it. This is Fox News. Fox News refuses. They refuse to play to broadcast the actual whole thing. You see, if you didn't catch it live, you won't hear it now. They won't put it out there. And the one that we're seeing right now has been cut by Fox News. straight through all of his answers. Trump can't talk on any issue. But let's play some more.
Never had an economy. And remember this, we also had the safest border in the history of our country.
You hear that? He just flipped from a question about the economy. He flipped from a question about the economy. He flipped from a question about the economy, and now he's on the border again. The man is on the border again, and this is a softball, cotton candy reception. There's no pushback from the interviewer. There's no fact checking from her, period. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to let this one play again, and then we're going to go over in a minute to the Kamala Harris interview on Fox also, which was totally hostile. Let's check.
Country. We never had a border that safe. The famous graph that I looked at, my all-time favorite piece of paper. I mean, even my all-time favorite. I love that piece of paper. But that shows you that day, the day I left office, the border was the safest it ever was in the history of our country.
Only problem is the question was about the economy.
We had the fewest number of people. We have the least amount of drugs. Everything was human trafficking, which is now 12 times higher.
You see, he can't speak on a topic
Than it was when, and it's trafficking. I hate to say this, mostly in women. It's a paper, but
you see, they just cut it. Did you see they just cut it? You see that? They just cut the answer again. The question was about the economy. He went off into the border. He tried to touch on bringing some companies back, and he's talking about furniture making. Okay, well, you should probably look into that because you're going to need some wood. You're going to need to know what you're doing with recycled wood. Yeah, you will, because you ain't going to be cutting down no trees in America. What do you want to make it out of? Metal furniture? Okay, the metal frame furniture is great. He's got to keep up with the times. There's reasons why certain companies make certain things and they trade with each other. There's real reasons for that, reasons that make sense, reasons that save energy, reasons that save money actually. And I guess so. How much you going to pay those people to make that furniture, buddy? You're going to pay them what, more than they get paid in where? China? More than they get paid where? So it's very important that people think about those things and not let Trump just ramble.
that shows you that day, the day I left office, the border was the safest it ever was.
Look, the question's about the economy. It's just that simple. And he's talking about the border.
To the history of our country, we had the fewest number of people. We have the least amount of drugs. Everything was human trafficking, which is now 12 times higher than it was when. And it's trafficking, I hate to say this, mostly in women. It's a vicious thing because of the internet and because of this administration, maybe more so than the internet. But we had the safest border. We had the best economy. Think of it, a combination of security and finance and all of the other things. And we're going to make it.
She asked the man, what are your plans to improve the economy? That's what she said.
Even better. We're going to make the border even better. But the border can't. I mean, we did things with the border that nobody could have done, including we built 571 miles of wall. And that wall worked. Then I got Mexico.
Did it improve the economy?
To give us soldiers, a lot of soldiers, 28,000 soldiers to protect us. I said, you have to protect us because.
Did it improve the economy?
Because you're letting all of these criminals come into our country. You have to protect us. They said, we're not going to do it. I said, good, then I'm just going to tariff all your goods until you do.
Did it improve the economy, tariffing all the goods? No, it created the damn inflation. I mean, listen to this man. What he just said creates inflation because the consumer is the one that pays the tariff. It's not the one sending it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what he's saying. Economists keep trying to explain that over and over and over, and Trump keeps saying the same thing. They told him what the effects were of the tariffs that he put in place. When Biden and Harris got into when they took office, they ended some of the tariffs, and the ones that remained, they adjusted them. Some of them are the same, a couple, but a lot of them they adjusted and changed, tweaked them so that they wouldn't be, something that harms the consumer. Basically.
it. They said, like I said, we're going to do it. And they gave us the social. So we had great protection, and we had the best economy in the history of our country.
Okay, let's.
So that was his answer about what are you going to do to improve the economy. He got stuck on human trafficking, the border, cartels, tariffs. There was nothing there. The only thing that he touched on about improving the economy was furniture. And who the hell says that's a good idea for the United States? Don't get me wrong. If it's specialized furniture, if it's something really special that has that you can't get crafted somewhere else, great idea. But if it's just the average person, a sofa for the average home, a bed for the average home, if you're talking about for the average, which is what most people are, average, you probably don't want to get it made in the United States, because what are you going to do? Get immigrants to come in and work for it cheap labor? Who's going to do the labor? The labor affects the price. So you can see already other people are doing a much better job at producing it for a much better price, which is why we import it and do business with them. They send us goods, and we send them goods that they can't make. It's just that simple. And usually the goods that are made in the United States are high quality goods that are particular, which it could be machinery like healthcare equipment, computers, respirators. It could be certain kind of chips, computers, different kind of products that our corporations make. But look, we ain't that great at making cheap furniture or decent furniture for the average person. That's just not one of those things. But let's
get back to the economy. According to America's Health Ranking Organization, 70.7% of Americans aged 65 and over voted in the past presidential election. So women are the largest registered and active group of voters. Social Security is important to some women, and people over the age of 65 are a very large voting bloc as well. You have said that you would not tax some of that Social Security money. How would that work?
We're not going to tax any of the Social Security money, the benefits that go to seniors, because what they've done to you with inflation is a disaster. It's the economy.
Hold on. What did she just say? What?
Economy, but in terms of really the numbers, it's the inflation. We had the worst, they say it's in 48 years, I say ever. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country, and the ones that really got hurt the worst are people that are on a fixed income.
It's not the worst inflation in the history of the country. Actually, the worst inflation in the history of the country, let's go back. I mean, it's actually under Trump. It's not the worst, but since let's see here. Was inflation higher under Trump or Biden? That's an easy way to say it. Inflation is up, but actually Trump had the worst inflation for a long period of time. So let's see here. Let's go back. Where the hell did I have it at? Let me see here. Fraternal Order of Police. Okay, hold on. It must be this one here. Sorry, I'm looking on the wrong one. It's largely due to COVID, you know what I mean? But or is it economic downturn? I'm sorry. Yeah, you kind of have to couple those two. But oh, here, but yeah, the economic downturn, which led to the inflation, is, obviously, if you don't understand it, it is actually under Trump. Now, if goods and services stopped because of COVID, and that drove up the price of the goods. It's just that simple. But most people understand it's due to COVID. But then again, how did Trump respond to COVID? You see, so it depends on which one you mean. In normal times, the inflation, you could say there's inflation under the Biden administration, but the economy is up. You see, the economy is up. But what is the inflation due to? It's basically due to the gas companies not lowering their prices on time, or not being willing to lower them as much as they could lower them because they're making a good buck. And gas is attached to all the shipping, all the distribution of all the goods. You see, it's that simple. Now, if Biden asked asked Congress to go into session to deal with that, is that going to happen? Is Trump going to do the same thing? I mean, he's going to have the same issue if he wins, right? Even though he doesn't admit it, he's going to have the same issue. But yeah. So, yeah. In some ways, Biden everybody knows there's some inflation under Biden in terms of the cost of goods. But what was the cost of goods, during Trump's last term? Around the COVID period, who gave him the economy? Obama gave Trump the economy, a decent economy. Trump gave Biden a poor economy. You see? So, but in any case, let's go.
Like we're buying breakfast. They could no.
Did you see how they just cut his answer? Anyway, I have to let it play. I'm sorry, y'all. I have to start letting it play a little more, because just so you can see how they cut his answer.
Again, I hate to say this, mostly in women. But that shows you that day, the day I left office, the border was the safest it ever was in the history of our country. We had the fewest number of people. We have the least amount of drugs. Everything was human trafficking, which is now 12 times higher than it was when. And it's trafficking, I hate to say this, mostly in women. It's a vicious thing because of the internet.
Election. So women are the largest registered and active group of voters.
Control this one.
Social Security is important to some women, and people over the age of 65 are a very large voting block as well. You have said that you would not tax some of that Social Security money. How would that work?
We're not going to tax any of the Social Security money, the benefits that go to seniors, because what you've done, what they've done to you with inflation is a disaster. It's the economy. But in terms of really the numbers, it's the inflation. We had the worst, they say it's in 48 years, I say ever. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country. Really got hurt. The worst are people that are on a fixed income, like our seniors. We're buying breakfast. They could no longer buy breakfast. Yeah. They have a case, a woman goes up to the counter with 3 apples.
Do you see how they just cut it?
Apples. And then she says, oh, I can't afford it. She brings 1 apple back. That's not supposed to be our country. That's not our country.
All right, let's move to a big campaign issue. I don't know if many people thought this would be where we are at this point, but in the election and in this country, transgender issues have become a focal point in races up and down the ballot. How many of you are worried about biological men and boys competing against women and girls in sports? Just show me. That's almost that is the entire room. And I know you have a question.
I do.
By the way, excuse me, it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Your question, your name, and your hometown.
My name is Linda, and I'm from Milton, Georgia.
Good.
But originally Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, wow.
I'd get that
Good.
in there. My question is, how do you plan on addressing the transgender issue in women's sports? I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of them female, all playing sports, and we are very concerned for their safety, not just on the field and the courts, but in their locker rooms as well.
Right. It's such an easy question, and everybody in the room, and you know that answer, we're not going to let it happen. You look, just yesterday, they had a volleyball match. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Where a person that transitioned, okay? We We have to be very careful because this can terminate your political career if you say it's slightly off, all right? But transitioned from man to female and was on a volleyball. And I saw the slam. It was a slam.
Look, just for your information, um, there's over 20 states that have already banned what they're talking about. So I'm not sure if he's talking about a federal ban. It must be what he's talking about. He wants a federal ban, but you got to understand that. Yeah, here we go. How something like this works in reality, and I'm not saying I don't identify. I wouldn't want my daughter, to be honest with you. It depends on who it is, what the individual looks like, but typically I wouldn't want my daughter competing, in sports against a person that looks like their body is closer to what a male's body would be like, meaning having the muscle capacity, the strength, these kind of things, but not always. It's not, there are things people can compete in, you know? So I don't want to be so broad about it because men and women compete all the time. Sometimes women are better at some sports. All dudes aren't that great at sports. Shit, all dudes are not that great. Some women will beat you up. Now, it depends on where you're at or what level. People have tried it. Maybe it hasn't turned out. I don't know where they've tried it at, but here's the thing. Right now, states have the right to ban these things, and over 20 states in the US have already banned it. So it's not a factor for 20 states what they're talking about. You see, now there might be some states that just don't really have an issue with transgenders. Maybe they don't have any. They don't have enough number of them to make a ban. You see what I mean? So it's not really a factor, and that's usually how the laws work in the U.S. They don't just pass laws where there's not problems. In other words, states usually focus on the problems that they have, and they don't want you coming to do things and tinker around when they don't have a problem with that. But yet Trump is talking about it in this way. So but let's let them continue. See,
I never saw a ball hit so hard, hit the girl on the head. But other people, even in volleyball, they've been really hurt badly. Women playing men, but you don't have to do the volleyball. We stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it. It's a man playing in the game. Physically, from a muscular state, even if it was a little bit less, maybe they do all sorts of tests and drugs and everything. Well, they've been really hurt badly. Women playing men, but you don't have to do the volleyball. We stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it. It's a man playing in the game. Physically, from a muscular state, even if it was a little bit less, maybe they do all sorts of tests and drugs and everything else. Look at what's happened in swimming. Look at the records that are being broken.
So how do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just ban it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen.
It's a misnomer. It's okay that they talk about this, but it is somewhat of a trope the way he's talking about it. And this is the thing. You see sports that have many women in it all the time. I'm not trying to say a transgender woman is a man, because it's not that simple. Defining what transgender really means, that's a big bracket there. It's not a unilateral thing. But for example, they have tennis doubles. It's called doubles. They have females doubles. They have men's doubles, and they have mixed doubles. In mixed doubles, a man is competing against a woman. A woman is also competing against a woman, but a woman is also competing against a man in the same sport. Of course, it's equaled out in that way to where one side has a woman and a man, and the other side has a woman and a man. But the reality of it is that, sometimes a woman is going to have to hit a ball back that she receives from a man. And that man is going to have the strength of a man, theoretically, and the woman is going to have the strength of a woman, theoretically. it's the same thing with volleyball. I mean, you heard Trump mention volleyball. You have, and they're talking about sports. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about bathrooms. They're not talking about other factors, right? Now, in volleyball, you have mixed volleyball, which is, it means that you will have men and women on one side and men and women on the other side. And the same thing happens just like in tennis. That's been going on for forever. You see, there's Olympic sports that have that too. So I'm sorry, but the examples that they're giving so far, I don't hear it. Now, if you want to talk about boxing, that's a different thing. Maybe that's not exactly right. Baseball, I don't know. You have to decide for yourself. Me myself, I don't know if there's anything that's called like I guess you would say there's situations where you would have women's baseball and men's baseball. And then there's a transgender woman that wants to play on the girls' team and not the boys' team. Okay. Where are those examples? You know, but again, states are already allowed to enact the laws freely how they want. It's like marijuana. So again, we're going back into this situation where it's like, are we unilaterally, or are we going to be like, you know, in all states, regions, like, are we going to ban abortion? All of it? All of just any type? Are we going to ban any type of change, you know, control over your own body when it comes to birth? Is that what we're going to do unilaterally? Because it doesn't work out. So it needs to be up to states. And right now, you know, there are problems with that with states. Some people can't do it and they're being forced to move. I mean, but I think overall, I'm surprised that they're talking about playing, because I thought they were going to talk about the surgery part of it. Where do you get the surgery? You know, but in any case,
Not a big deal.
You have the next question. I know. Hi.
I don't think they asked him the question, because I think this is a softball interview. It's a cotton candy interview. So they're not going to ask about, or maybe they clipped it, but they're not going to ask about surgery. They're not going to ask about all those things. And also, maybe they ask about abortion. I would like to see how far they go into that. But
my name is Rachel Rachel S. here from Cumming, Georgia. I'm a single mom to 2 kids here. And just in 3.5 years, my child tax credit has decreased by 80%, almost.
Get what? Excuse me?
Her child tax credit has
Okay.
decreased by 80%.
That's
Sorry, my child tax credit
Right.
has decreased by almost
Right.
80%.
they cut it.
But last year I had broken my neck and I tried applying for any kind of assistance and was denied because I did not make less than $700 a month. And I'm shaking like a freaking leaf. I cannot stop. So I could not afford daycare. I obviously was having to go through physical therapy and a lot of issues, and I'm still having issues to this day.
right. I understand.
But what kind of realistic changes that do you think you can provide single parents, married parents, any kind of parent to just simply afford children in today's world with afford daycare? I obviously was having to go through physical therapy and a lot child tax credit.
Right. Big deal.
You have the next question. I know.
Hi. My name is Rachel S. Rachel S. here from Cumming, Georgia. I'm a single mom
I just want to hear what state she's in.
to 2 kids here. And
She said she lives in Georgia, right? I think that is exactly what she said. She said Georgia. Hold on. Let's see here.
Big deal.
You have the next question. I know.
Hi. My name is Rachel S. Rachel S. here from Cumming, Georgia.
Okay, so let me look up Cummings, Georgia, real quick. Okay, I hope I got it right. Cummings, Georgia. Do they have a federal or state child. What does she call it? A child deduct. What is it? Child tax credit, right? I think that's what she called it. Let's see here, just to be sure.
Stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it. It's a man playing in the game. I mean, physically, from a muscular, even if it was a little bit less, maybe they do all sorts of tests and drugs and everything else. Look at what's happened in swimming. Look at the records that are being broken.
So how do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just ban it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen.
Did you hear this fool's answer? What's up, break room? Did you hear this guy's answer? Yo, in case for people that don't know, right? Just for people that don't know, the president is not the one who writes the laws. He can make an executive order, but the executive order doesn't last. Soon as you get another president, he can reverse it. So in Trump's mind, he's using the executive order. That's his thing. He likes to do things alone and circumvent Congress, circumvent the Senate. That is circumventing the voters. You have to understand that. People have to be clear about this. It's not the proper way to do it. If there's emergencies that stack up, then you might go to the executive branch and say, hey, make an executive order to deal with this, because maybe you asked Congress to act first and Congress won't act. Hence, like Congress won't act on the FEMA thing right now until the election is over. Well, if things get so bad, Biden will have to issue an executive order to do something about it, right? But until the money runs out, he wouldn't do that. But here is an example of how Trump thinks to do his work. He's going to ban it. Now, keep in mind, he's talking about banning it on the federal level, right? He's just going to ban it. He don't even know what he's talking about anyway. He's just going to ban it on the executive level. He's not going to ask Congress to do anything about it, right? So obviously the Senate won't be involved. But listen, y'all, in 20 states already, it's banned what he's talking about. States already have the right to ban it. You see? So just be clear when he's talking about it. It's not really something that deep what he's talking about. And you really got to ask, okay, if 20 states have already banned it, then what are the other states talking about? Are they in an emergency situation? Are they like, oh yeah, this is such a problem. Girls, transgender boys, competing against the girls. I mean, you don't hear that many examples of it. You've probably seen more examples on YouTube, professional fighting, or someone who took a fight in some professional camp sport and fighting sport, and then the woman just get her brains beat in. Yeah, you might have seen that, but again, that's private. That's private. Or that might be in another country. I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make light of it, but I'm just saying, is this really something that you need a federal ban on right now? Is that Trump's thing? But let's let him talk. I wanted to hear the woman, talk about the tax credit real quick.
Big deal.
You have the next question. I know.
Hi. My name is Rachel S. Rachel S. here from Cumming, Georgia. I'm a single mom to 2 kids here. And just in 3.5 years, my child tax credit has decreased by 80%, almost.
You get what? Excuse me?
Her child tax credit has decreased by 80%.
That's
Sorry, my child tax credit has decreased by almost 80%. But last year I had broken my neck and I tried applying for any kind of assistance and was denied because I did not make less than $700 a month. And I'm shaking like a freaking leaf. I cannot stop. So I could not afford daycare.
Okay, so she makes over the limit to receive the child tax credit. It's an adjustable scale child tax credit.
I obviously was having to go through physical therapy and a lot of issues, and I'm still having issues to this day.
Right, I understand.
But what kind of realistic changes do you think you can provide single parents, married parents, any kind of parent to just simply afford children in today's world with afford daycare. I obviously was having to go through physical therapy and a lot of issues.
You know, I didn't hear her say how much she's getting. She just said it went down by 80%. Okay, so it started off at what to what? We have no idea what she makes. Um, we have no idea of what the child tax credit is. I mean, from her, what she's getting. The information I'm getting back, it says that it says here, let me pull that up so we can have that as a reference too. Yeah, and I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but it's worth hearing. Maybe it's been updated in a year, in the last year, and maybe it's not, coming up in the system here. But let's see. Yeah, okay. So let's go back to this.
And I'm still having issues to this day.
Right, I understand.
But what kind of realistic changes that do you think you can provide single parents, married parents, any kind of parent to just simply afford children in today's world with?
Where I lived, it's an adjustable scale, so it is also based on how much you make. And you can, if you make a lot of money, for example, if you're really rich, wait a second. There are some, it's not the child tax credit, but there's a limit. There's an amount that everybody gets for every child. Then if you're single, then it becomes adjustable. But a family, there's a point where you could also volunteer. If you feel like you make too much money, you can volunteer to reject it, if you want. But automatically, everybody gets it here, no matter how much you make per child, right? And then if you're single and all of a sudden you go below a certain amount of money, that's where the adjustable scale kind of rolls in, because everybody doesn't really need it. The richer you are, you don't really need it, but by law, they give out a certain stipend anyway, just to remove any type of issues with the taxes, But here, let's see what she said.
She said, Dad, we have to do tax credits for women, for the child tax credits. She was driving me crazy. Then I did it, and I got it just about done. Dad, you've got to double it up. I said, Ivanka, it was actually more complicated than the entire bill, but I got it done. And what we're going to do, and I'm going to make, because I understand exactly what you're saying, we're going to readjust things so that it's fair to everybody, because it's really not fair to everybody. But we have a lot, and we're going up higher, but we're also going to readjust, because you have to make some readjustments. It's unfair to some people, and we're not going to have that. But she was the one that got it started. Those were our credits. Those were not the Democrat credits. A lot of Republicans said, rightfully, don't do it because we never get credit for that. We're not known for that. But the truth is, I wanted to put it all in the form of the tax cut. So I got the maximum tax cut, but we're also bringing down the taxes for companies and for people. We're bringing it down to 15%. And for companies only.
Do you believe what he's saying? Show over. I missed another one. Peace, brother. We're on. The show ain't over, bro.
If you make your product, build your product in the USA. Otherwise, you don't get it. So it is.
I want to ask you specifically what your vision is for people in this country who are going to have to readjust to price setting now. We will never go back to what we had. And
We're
even
just
though
checking out the softball interview, that town hall questions that Trump got, and then we're gonna flip over into Kamala. Let me see how much time we're in. All right, it's an hour and a half. Let me just flip it because you guys can review this. It's up there on Fox News. They have it. They cut out a lot of his answers, so I don't know why they did that, but yeah, Fox News does this apparently. When they don't like your answer, they cut it out. So an example of that, well, fuck it, I'm just going to give you an example. We're going to watch what they did with Kamala Harris. Yeah, it was a totally different type of interview, and yeah, completely different. But oops, let's see here. Let's pull it up anyway. Where is this at? The source right here. Go into the file. Let's see, Kamala Harris. How her interview was a little bit different. The name of it is a lot different. The name of her, and this one is called Falconer Hour with Trump, and the Kamala Harris one is called Kamala Harris Disastrous Interview. Both are on Fox, by the way, if you want to check them out.
President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
Voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election.
So you see, the introduction was much shorter. It was just like, here we go. Da, 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 da. Vice President, welcome. Thank you. Straight to the point. Trump's was like, it was a lot. It was a little bit more fluff to it. But now we're asking about immigration again. You see this? So again, Fox, that's the main. They're going to ask her the same questions. But for Trump, listen to his answers. He have non-answers. They ask him about the economy, and he starts talking about the border wall. They would ask him about things, and he just didn't answer back on topic.
And specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
What does that mean, released? Released? What do you mean released into the country? Like, do you mean detained and then released them, allowed them to stay in the country? That's a funny word. So, it's a setup question. It's a MAGA talking point, essentially. But how do you answer a question like that when it's not specific? Yeah, but
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have, and you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right now,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system.
now you see that? That didn't happen in Trump's interview. That didn't happen. Trump was allowed to ramble, talk, say anything he wanted. You ask him about the economy. He's talking about the border wall. We built 50% of the border wall. This guy stopped Kamala answer when she didn't. He stopped her from answering when she didn't give the answer verbatim that he wanted.
That needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
It's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people
that
have been
needs to be-
released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men,
Exactly.
who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to turn?
Now, look, this is I just got to say this, of course I got to talk, but the facts is that by far the majority of crimes, serious crimes, murders, things like this, these violent crimes is what is categorized. The far majority happens by a United States citizen. The far minority are illegal immigrants. And then you have another category that's high too, and that's American citizens that are non-born American citizens. So American citizens, born American citizens and non-born American citizens, their violent crime rates are high. You know, when you look at the data, the the violent crime for illegal immigrants is I'm gonna pull up the data yourself, but there is no comparison. You need to, when you see the data, you wouldn't even be asking this question, which is probably why Kamala Harris is looking at him like, "Are you stupid?" And again, they have used tropes. If you don't know the data, you will be in fear of the tropes. The reality of it is that they're making that seem like you're more likely to meet a foreigner and be a victim, or an illegal immigrant and be a victim of a violent crime, than it is an American citizen. That's absolutely, unequivocally incorrect. The people that you really need to be afraid of in terms of a violent crime inside of the United States, that's being shot, being robbed, right? And assaulted, being sexually assaulted, all those things. That's Americans. That's straight up American citizens, right? Doing that. But let me see Wab's question here, or statement. If it wasn't actually related to our actual lives, it would be pure reality entertainment. It's true, brother, because we need to be talking about the real issues, and they're making up issues, purely based on wanting to be prejudiced. So let me give you an example. If there's 10 American citizens that you walk by every day that have committed violent crimes towards others, and then there's one or two illegal immigrants, right? Let's say one and a half illegal immigrants that have committed the same crime. Who you think you're going to be most afraid of? Who should you rationally be afraid of? You should be afraid of the American citizens, obviously, because they're committing these crimes. Largely by the huge majority, far majority is that. But yet Fox News and Trump, what they want to do is racialize everything. And eventually, after they get past racializing the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, quote unquote, then they're going to get down to racializing the citizens, which they already do. They already look, they racialized George Floyd, turned him into an inhuman monster, not deserving of just getting locked up like they would anybody else. No, they wanted to they killed him in front of everybody. They thought they could get away with it because he was a black man. Thank God he didn't, because Minnesota is not trying to have it. You see what I'm saying? But the federal, it was so shocking. It was on TV. They couldn't avoid it. Even Trump couldn't avoid it because it was recorded. Everyone saw exactly what happened, and then they tried to racialize it and pivot it to he had superhuman strength. But then when you saw the tape, you could see this man ain't got no strength at all. He's passive. He's giving in. He's capitulating. He's like the easiest man to put into handcuffs and throw on the ground. Man, it's ridiculous. Let's see here. The immigrant issue is one of the presidential race talking points, though unfortunately immigrants just happen to be under the microscope at the moment. Yeah, brother, and this is a real form of discrimination. And I'm surprised for any Black American. And I'm only, there's others too, Hispanic American, all that. The ones that are, follow this logic and go by what Trump says, you all really need to start rethinking this approach. Because if you have been victimized this way, why wouldn't you understand how wrong it is? You can't argue it and say it is wrong for you, and then when it happens to another the same exact way, then you say, it's legitimate. That doesn't make sense. That's just hypocrisy. But let's go ahead. This interview, it's a complete opposite of feel and vibe of Trump's town interview on Fox. It was one-on-one. This is one-on-one. Trump's was one-on-one pretty much, but there was no pushback. This interview with Kamala Harris is like hostile in the ring. You know what I'm saying? Like they're about to start boxing, from the first question, the man cut her off twice. In fact, he even changed the question because he was like, you know what? I don't like her answer, so let me cut her off and ask a new question. It was crazy.
Terminate remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially
You see how he just went in there and cut her off? Do you see that? The man literally cut her off again while she's answering the very question that he asked, right? Now, Trump. Did Trump get cut off? Nope. Same channel, Fox. Trump didn't get cut off one time. I give Kamala Harris, not that she doesn't understand this. She's not looking for points. The lady's tough, right? But I'm going to give her credit for this anyway because she one-upped all of them. She showed them that I'm a woman. You men have been talking shit about me all this time, talking about my ethnicity, talking about, lying about me openly, criticizing my family, my form of family, criticizing my sexuality, my sex organs by trying to say that because I don't have a biological child of my own that came out of my own body, that somehow I'm less of a woman or somehow I don't care about the country I live in, which is a complete, utter misnomer because there's women and men that pop out babies all over the place that treat their babies like dirt, like shit. You see what I mean? So popping a baby out is a biological function. It doesn't mean you know a damn thing about how to treat a child or raise a child. That's something else. That's something you have to discover. You see, and you can discover that with your own child or you can discover it with others. Some people, like my kids, my oldest son, he learned about about child caring through watching me, watching his mom, and then one day he get to hold the baby in his arms as a child. So he didn't have to have his own child to learn how to treat a child. He watched mommy and daddy do it, and then he began to do it, and then other kids see him do. That's how it works. But they want to turn everything into a narrow, kind of single issue, single way of doing things that doesn't make sense. It's just not realistic. It's terrible. It's terrible to watch them do that because they take all of the intellect, all of the intelligence, all of the learned experience that all kinds of people have, and they throw it all the way to something that doesn't even work anyway. Again, your body can be working fine. A man and woman can have a child, but that's a biological function. You were created to do that. You see, that doesn't mean that you're good at raising a child. It doesn't mean you know how to nurture a child. It doesn't mean you care about the country. Do you know how many people we talk to all the time? Look at Trump. Does he care about the country? He's already talking about using the military to attack people that use freedom of speech against him just because they don't agree with him. He's talking about using the military to lock people up, right? He's saying we're the threat. He's saying American citizens are the other threat. You got Iran, and then you got some American citizens that don't agree with him that are the threat. It's just ridiculous.
May I please finish?
Yes,
may
ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
Okay,
You have to let me finish,
You had the
please.
White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising.
Okay.
And
Now, you see, this is the second question. It really is the third one. He stopped her the first time answering the question, and then he changed the answer, and then she was allowed to answer that. This is really the second question, and you could call it the third one, and then he cuts her off again. I mean, did that happen to Trump? No. Trump on the same channel, same day, pretty much, had all ice cream and candy questions, no pushback at all. So, in fact, Trump has not faced a tough interview in a month. He's avoided them all. So I have to respect Kamala Harris here. I have to respect her because she didn't choose the easy interview. She chose the most hostile, the channel that has been most grotesquely hostile towards her as a human being. And she said, I ain't scared of you bitches. And went right up there, looked the man in his face, and answered the questions, their trope questions. You know, we know what their questions are. Immigration. What are you going to do to improve the economy? You know, right? And you had inflation. Those are their questions. And transgenders. Even though we know 20 states already have banned transgenders from fighting, you know, a transgender man, a woman, or kid, girl, a boy, excuse me, can't compete against a girl in sports. But it's already banned, and they want a federal level. They want to talk about it on the federal level, but that's ridiculous. All states haven't banned marijuana. Why? All states haven't legalized marijuana. Why is that? All states haven't legalized abortion. Why is that? You see? So it's kind of like they're looking to do things that aren't even really needed on the federal level, instead of looking to see what's needed on the federal level and working for the American people. Let the states be the states. Let the federal government be the federal government. You know, do you want the federal government acting in FEMA? Well, look at what they did with a natural disaster. Usually everybody can understand that. Yeah, we want FEMA. But guess what? Now they're challenging that. They're saying they don't want FEMA. They don't want the federal government handling disasters. But they want you see? So they're all over the place with this stuff.
And I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Look, you see that? Look, the man doesn't want a comprehensive, he doesn't want an answer from her. Her answers are too good. Her answers are the right answers, and he doesn't want them. Did Trump get cut off one time in the middle of his answer on Fox? No, hell no, he didn't get cut off one time. And you know what that means? They had to cut it later because the man just rambled, but it wasn't the person interviewing him or asking the questions that cut him off. No, but that's the case here. You know, Kamala Harris, she's not shaking at all. She's like, okay, this is hard work, but hard work is good work.
Drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Moore.
But it doesn't matter because who killed the bill? It was Trump. They had enough votes. And here's the thing: the other thing is that it's Republicans that have also they've been talking about that bill the whole time. Republicans. So 6 Democrats, you could see how Kamala Harris, she was more center on the issue of immigration than Cory Booker. You see what I mean? She was more center on the issue. She was closer to the Republicans on this issue because she's a prosecutor and she has prosecuted multinational criminals, human traffickers, drug dealers, these kind of things, cartel members. So she's center to that issue. She had the Republican support. The bill was going to move and Trump shot it down. You see, so.
Warren, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred.
But who's personally apologizing for victims of police brutality? Is there any administration, any president that was a sitting president that ever apologized for a victim of police brutality? Did anyone ever blame the president for individual acts like this? It doesn't make any sense that they're asking her to personally apologize.
So
you know?
That is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
If Trump gets elected, he is more likely to not, he might do something superficial like a wall, but look at how he negotiated with Zelensky. Look how he negotiated with Saudi Arabia. Look how he's been doing these kind of underhanded deals, right? What do you think he's going to do when it comes to the cartels? Do you think he wants to stem fentanyl, or do you think he wants a cut of the fentanyl? Do you think he's going to stem heroin, or does he want to cut under the table cut of the heroin? Does he want to be the cartel kingmaker? That's more like Trump. Trump has only made decisions about under the table, what can he get for himself? And you know he got something from Putin to deal with Zelensky. You know that right off the bat. What is it? Doesn't Trump still own a building in Russia? Hasn't Trump been doing business in Russia? The Miss Universe pageant? I mean, what do you think they have on him? The man has already said he could go inside of the changing rooms in the Miss Universe pageant and no one could say anything because it's like he's the owner. You see what I mean? So you can't just let him off the hook for those kind of statements and then pretend like the man is not corrupt. You see? So in any case.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Look, it's a policy decision, but that doesn't mean you personally take blame for each individual act. Hence, did Trump take the blame for George Floyd personally because of his policy? Did he? Did he take blame for anything because of his statements? Did he take blame for January 6th? I'm sorry. Did he take blame for that? Did he? It's his own words that ignited it. And now he's actually protecting it, trying to find ways that the law can protect it. What's that about? Did he apologize to the police officer that died? You know, is he apologizing to the persons during the hurricane? You know, Trump he doesn't apologize for a damn thing. What about COVID? Did he apologize to the people, the 1.1 million people that died of COVID due to his policy? Did he? He was the president. It was his policy. It was his choice. He's the one that was supposed to be the leader and reacting to the epidemic, the global pandemic coming to the United States. Does he take personal blame for those 1.1 million deaths? So this is ridiculous what this man is asking her to do in the first place. Just because you sign, first of all, just because you vote on policy with others, just because even if I don't even know if she co-wrote any policy on it, on the border. I don't know if she co-wrote that, but just because, let's say you even co-wrote it, that doesn't mean you take blame for every individual act, because she personally is not the one who interviewed the individual and let them on the street. There was someone else who made those decisions down the line. You don't know if it's a different person, how that would go. It's just that simple. You know, this is ridiculous. This is almost like gaslighting. This is really weird for this man to suggest, because Kamala Harris is not supposed to be taking more responsibility just because she's a woman than anybody else. Fox, did they take responsibility for lying about the voting machines? Sure. Did they personally apologize? No. Did they settle out of court? Yes, they did. $700 and something million. If they didn't settle, they would be paying $1 billion. That's what happened. But did they issue a personal apology? No, they didn't. So he's asking her to do something. These people, time and time and time, would tell you, hell no. Who do you think you are? A personal apology? I'm too good for that. But Kamala Harris, she says she feels for the family. But take personal responsibility? Come on.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible.
Yeah, this is part of a hearing, you know, but it's true what you're saying. I mean, they wanted, it's not even just the Republicans. I think his administration or something, you know, they wanted to personally do it. But this is a bipartisan hearing, I believe. Let me look into this, though. Let me know what you think.
For the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's
way better than Trump would have ever done.
Talk about what is happening right now with an individual
anyway,
who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness, I told you I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett. Well, that's how the system works.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90-plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
That was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly,
I think just for people to understand the question, the president does not write law. That is not the role of the president. That's the role of the Congress. Congress writes the law. The Senate looks at the law to make sure that there's no kinks in it, that it's legal according to the Constitution and all of this stuff, right? Although Congress does that too. Then they take it to the president's desk and then they sign it. You see? So Donald Trump didn't make an executive order to ban it, right? Did Donald Trump call anyone? Did he call Congress to go into session to ban it? These are the questions you have to ask when someone asks you a question like that as an interviewer. Because if you don't, I mean, on the surface, it makes it look like something different is going on. One thing you don't want is, if you want real change, right? First of all, there's something else that can happen after that. It goes into the Supreme Court. So you see, actually, there's different components, but the president does not write the law. What the president usually does is ask Congress to go into session to start writing a bill. Then if the bill gets passed, it goes into the Senate, and the Senate looks at it and passes it. And when those two things happen, then it goes to the president, and the president can sign it into the law, but it can end up at the Supreme Court. So, I mean, if you want something like that to happen as a president, you need to call Congress to go into session. Did Trump call Congress to go into session to ban it? No. And that's how it works. Now, you could be the president and sign an executive order, for some reason, that can also end up in the Supreme Court, right? If you want to do that. But Donald Trump appointed all these right-wing Supreme Court justices. So why didn't Donald Trump do it? The Supreme Court wouldn't have stopped it, his executive order. The Supreme Court wouldn't have stopped anything passing, if it passed through, a ban passed through Congress, right? Which is where they write the laws, and the Senate. The Supreme Court would have backed them up because those are right-wing judges. You see? Christian ones that get basically help from lobbyists, specific kinds of lobbyists. So she's saying she'll follow the law. I mean, and she's saying that's what Donald Trump did. So you want her to do more than Donald Trump on the issue? Again, this is about transgenders, right? It's about someone's personal choice. Again, just like a lot of you out there personally like to smoke weed and you didn't have the right to do that, all the people that didn't smoke weed had power over your life. All the people that wrote the laws had power over your life. You had to stand there and get stopped by the police. Not everybody, but often black men, and be pulled in by the police. Stop with the police. The first thing they say is, "Oh, you smell like marijuana, so let me search your car. Give me your license." You go to get your license, you get shot. Black men are tired of that bullshit. Very simple. Did other people empathize with black men? How long did black men have to go through this bullshit? So again, somebody else had power over our fucking bodies. So we have to really start looking at this. What role does the government have in these things? Should you have control over your own body? Yes. Should someone else force you to do something with your own body? No. That's what you should want. Do Republicans want the law to work that way? No. Republicans want to force what you can do with your own body. And they want to give tax cuts to the rich, to the wealthy. They don't want to move on affordable housing. They don't want to move on health care, universal health care. You see what I mean? They don't want to move on fair wages, union jobs. They don't want to move on those things. What they're obsessed with, and you've heard it here, they're really obsessed with the two major things: is a border wall that ain't going to stop shit, because immigrants know how to swim, especially desperate ones. Desperate ones know how to dig tunnels. Desperate ones know how to go right through the border crossing. It's called smuggling on a damn 18-wheeler. They know how to do all the things that the drugs know how to do. The wall won't stop the drugs. The wall won't stop the people. Something else has to also be done in conjunction with that. It's not a one-pronged solution, but they're obsessed with that one. Just talking about it, not doing anything about it, only talking about it, right? And the other thing that they're obsessed with is your body. Transgenders. It's your body. It's already banned in 20 states. The states decide who fights who. That's what they decided. So nobody, federal government is coming to Texas and saying, "Hey, you need to let transgender women or girls fight non-transgender girls." No, the federal government's not forcing that on anybody. They banned it on the state level. It didn't make sense to them. They have the freedom. 20 states already have bans on it. You see Biden trying to overturn it? No. You see? So for some reason, the Republicans, they have a really strange eye. They have a really weird thing, a way of going about things that does everything else but just give people the support that the majority of people want. They focus on these secondary issues that really, again, immigration. I don't have the data right in front of me, and I don't like quoting. I don't like saying things that's not 100% accurate. But the bottom line is that the far, 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 far extreme percentage of people in the United States you need to be afraid of being a victim of a violent crime from: carjacking, a robbery and assault, murder. That's American citizens, and that's who you need to be afraid of. Immigrants are not doing those crimes. That they're the extreme minority in that. I'm talking extreme, but yet the Republicans are selling you this idea that you need to worry about the immigrants killing some girl or raping some girl when the American citizens, born ones, are the biggest one to rape little girls. That's really the truth. So anyway, this was a very boring, in terms of the questions, this interview was boring as hell. This wasn't nothing but the same damn questions you could get on any. These are the same questions. They only asked these 3 questions. I'm gonna let it play. This is garbage. Kamala Harris, you were queen. You handled this interview. You went into their house. They talked shit about your mama. They talked shit about your ethnicity. They talked shit about your professor. They played games. They hid for years. They hid your professional career. For years, they hid it. They hid 30 years of Kamala Harris's actual experience just to do a trope about her as a prosecutor 20-something damn odd years ago when she didn't even write the laws that she had to prosecute. That's how phony Fox News is. They're disgusting. They're disgusting. These are not the type of people you want to have nothing to do with. But since they exist and they got big mouths, Kamala Harris went right into there. Now, you notice the man didn't ask her nothing about her family. Nah, they don't do that when they're in her face. They didn't ask her nothing. She has 30 years as elected prosecutor, elected senator. Elected prosecutor, elected state rep, Senate, right? Elected vice president. And now she's running for the presidency. But for the 20, I believe it's close to 30 years, every post that Kamala Harris has had, she has had to run against someone else to get it. Even the prosecutor role she had a long time ago. You see, so they're obsessed with like 2 or 3 things, and they're never going to give the woman credit. They clearly have made it just very simple to understand. They don't like her because of her color. They don't like her because she is a woman that wants to have women control themselves. And they definitely don't like her because she is the type of woman that will go right up to your face and say, "What's that you talking about?" And that's exactly what she's doing here. They don't want women being bold. They don't want women standing up for themselves. They don't want women controlling their own body. They don't want nobody controlling their own body. They don't even want men. They don't want minority men controlling their own body. See, these people are obsessed with controlling other people. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. You see, Democrats are not obsessed with controlling other people's body. In Democratic states, you can smoke your weed. If that's the case, if that's what you got to do, that's what you do. They have legalized it because a dime bag of weed shouldn't mean that a police officer has a reason to start checking everything else when they have no suspicion of anything else. And on top of that, they damn sure shouldn't take a dime bag of weed and turn it into thousands of dollars court fees. Thousands it costs dollars. They shouldn't fill up the court with shit like that when you need to be focused on real crimes. So let me just let this play.
Ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in this presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassessment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, It's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
On
it was
plans for
different,
the
but
American
we'll move
people,
on.
I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think
I like your answer right here.
he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear.
That's the thing. And she's right. They focus on things that they bring no data to justify why they're focused on it. When they're talking about you're going to ban transgender, where's the data? Where's the data on transgender anything? See, they hold up 2 or 3 people and talked about her immigration policy. Oh, these 3 girls got killed by immigrants, when the extreme majority of people killing little girls are American-born citizens and non-American born citizens, but American born citizens, not illegal immigrants. Yet he's asking, are you going to do some policy about illegal immigrants? It doesn't make sense. And it's the same thing with the transgender thing. The states already have the right to pass their own laws. It's the states that are deciding. Primarily, it's the states. If you got girls and boys fighting each other in the ring, that's because the state allowed it. It's 20 states that have banned this kind of stuff anyway. You don't see the federal government going out there and doing anything about that, trying to usurp it, right? Why? Why don't you see them doing that? I'm going to tell you why. Because there's not enough data to justify doing that, doing a federal thing. And it's, so the Republicans, they're really weird about stuff. When it's something that they don't really have any data on, that's the shit they want to jump on. But when the Democrats have data on all kinds of shit, Republicans don't want nothing to do with it. It doesn't make any sense. It's always backwards for them, and I'm not a person. I feel the same way most people feel. If I saw a person a body that looked like a man, and he's standing in front of me with a wig. By the way, that's a cross-dresser. That's not necessarily a transgender. But let's say it was a transgender. If I see a person who otherwise physically looks like a man, but just is saying he's a girl, wearing lipstick, a girl, hair like a girl, but looks like a man physique, I mean, I'm obviously going to take note of that and be like, okay, this is something, but I'm not going to discriminate against the person. Why? Because it's just like looking at a lot of people I have to walk down the street and see every day. Everyone, screw the transgenders. You think everybody is appealing to the eye? Hell no. If I had to discriminate, I don't discriminate against them. I just go the other direction. I give them what they need and then get on about my business. What makes you think non-transgender people are appealing to the eye? What makes you think there's nothing wrong with non-transgender people? It's got to make more sense than what they argue. That's the problem with the Republican Party. Whenever there's something that applies across the board that the multitude or the majority of people are affected by, like the hurricanes, the Republicans, what do? We're not going to go into session until after the election. But they're not giving you any time frame about the session. It's hurricane season. You just had 2. They're not cleaned up yet or rebuild yet from, and there's some more coming. But the Republicans, if you ask them, that affects all those people. But the Republicans, what they're going to do, they're going to go into session. They're not going to go into session. They're going to wait till the end of the election, but they're not going to give you a time frame on how long the session is going to take. The session could take 3 days, or the session could take a year. You have to understand that. And the session is the only way there's going to be any public conversation about the real details. Without a session, you're only hearing talking points through the media, and through the leaders. That's it. 10-second sound bites. You're not getting any comprehensive data. The comprehensive data is not being gathered. It's not being put together. There's no debate on it, left or right. They're not finding out what information is real, what information is not real, which rises to the test, which doesn't. None of that shit. Let alone getting to the part where you get to vote on it. You see what I mean? So the hurricanes affected all these people. Republicans go into session. 3 girls get raped by illegal immigrants, they want to go into session and make a law, even though the extreme minority of women getting raped in the country are by goddamn U.S. citizens. Born is the number one group that rapes women. Born U.S. citizens by extreme far rape more little girls than any other group of human beings or even fucking animals in the United States of America. But they want you looking for the immigrants. It's completely irrational. And if there was something rational about it, I would be all fucking for it. The problem is that there never is. It's completely irrational. That's the problem. Nobody likes illegal immigrants. But are you really supposed to be preoccupied with something like that doesn't make any damn sense? Of course not. Not when you can be occupied with something that affects way more people. You know? I mean, let me let a little more play of this, because what is it? I'm getting at almost 2 hours and 15 minutes. Okay. I'm gonna give 15 more, a couple more minutes. I might drop the link and then call it a day. Let me just play a little bit more of this.
In the voters, because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan.
You see, he just tried to stop her because she's making too much goddamn sense. And that's what I'm talking about. These cornball men, right? They can't handle her. They talked all that shit when they weren't in her face, hiding in the office behind the camera. None of them picked up the phone and wanted to have a private conversation with her about anything personal, but they wanted to get into who's your mama, who's your daddy, where's your grandparents from, what else is it? Well, not only where your grandparents are from, but oh yeah, you didn't have a baby of a biological child come out of your womb, miss. Can I talk about that today? They wanted to do all that on TV. Where are the questions now? Where are the questions now from Fox News? How come they ain't shoot one of those questions out there? Because they're fucking cowards. They can't do it because they know this woman would eat them alive if they dare do it to their face. So these people that talk, all of this stuff that are going, trying to get everybody to go after immigrants for rape, when it's the goddamn American men that's raping by far all the little girls, and shit ain't being done about it. They want to focus on who her great granddaddy was, or if she had a biological child fall through her womb. All right, let me drop the link. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna drop
to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a
check this out. Every time she repeated so many times. Every time she repeated, hey, I'm dealing with the issues that affect the majority of American citizens: housing, fair wages, right? Education, access to education, right? Student debt, this kind of shit. You notice how he doesn't ask her one question about none of that. None of it. And they call themselves a news channel? They weren't even. So you have to understand this. Fox News is not interested in fair housing. Fox News is not interested in student debt. Fox News is not even interested in abortion all of a sudden. No, they're not. No. They don't even want to talk about that because the polls killed Trump when they were talking about that. Fox News is not interested in the hurricanes. They're not interested in Congress not going into session until the election. They're not interested in none of the things that affect. They weren't interested in climate change. That's what the Congress not going into session until after the election is about. They're not interested in the things that affect the majority of American citizens. They're not. They're not genuinely concerned about rape of little girls. It's only an issue when a few illegal immigrants do it. Otherwise, they don't give a fuck. Otherwise, they want you to have the rapist's child if you get raped. That's what's going on here. The link is down. Anybody that want to hop up can hop up if you want to. Let me play a little bit more.
Plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do.
But that's not, more people don't say that. That's polling, and the polling is very tight, but that's polling. Polling is not always accurate. Look, and let me tell you why. That's what he said. Why is it more people? You can't say that. He needs to refer to the polls. Why is it that the polls suggest? That's what a real journalist is supposed to say, because that's what he knows. That's all he knows. The reason why I say polls is because a lot of the polls that you're hearing, even in the election cycle, man, do you know they go down to a state and they put out a poll and they'll tell you, Trump is up by 7 points in this state. And then right on the bottom of that poll, do you know they tell you how many people they polled, that they actually asked, how many respondents? 1,200 people. State got millions. They asked 1,200. And then they tell you, why do more people trust you with the economy? You see? So you have to be intelligent when you're dealing with slippery, slidey Fox News scumbags and others, because they're not being real about it. They're just not being real about the shit. In any case. Oh, the link won't let you in. Well, you got to try again. Look, listen, Pumpkin. I'm going to help you with this one. You need to shut down your browsers, because you probably got 3 or 4 of them open on your phone. And you need to only open up one browser and click on the link. There you go. Then you could do it, because if you tried it a couple of times and you have some things open in the background, sometimes it doesn't work. But in any case, let me see here. Yeah, let me play some more.
As President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump, ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Bob Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences.
This is kind of I can understand maybe the question, but people need to be real about this. There is no administration that is a continuation of the last. Why is that, y'all? because situations change. Things are not finite, and that's the reason why you have lawmakers to take care of new situations that arise. You see what I mean? That's why you have lawmakers. Hopefully, Congress is like that too, that it's not just a continuation of the last, that they change. Um, and I don't mean only change and keep certain things the same. I mean, sometimes you might pass a law and you realize this law is not needed anymore. Okay. Or we need to adjust the law. And it's okay. And a lot of times adjusting turns out to be very good. How you adjust, who knows? I'll give you an example. Some of Trump's tariffs remained, a few. The majority of them didn't, but the majority of them were altered, not stopped. They were altered to better suit, the cost of goods, number one, and then a few other things, But Trump had put tariffs on our allies on trade, which we have a close economical relationship with, just like which we always have. Like I give an example: if the housing market suffers in the U.S., Europe gets hit with inflation too. They get hit. A lot of people don't know that, but these things are symbiotic. They're not just single. And in any case, let me let it play. I don't know, Pumpkin, you coming in? Pumpkin? I don't see Pumpkin yet, but let me let it play a little
and
more.
fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page.
Yeah. What's up? What's the word? Good morning, VP. This interview was crazy, but Kamala held her own. Yes. Good morning. Yes. Good morning to the chat. Yeah, she held her own. I like her style. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've learned more about Kamala Harris just watching her campaign, and I have no doubt anymore that she is by far the greatest, the best candidate. And not only that, but most of the people that I hear that criticize her, I mean, I just have to say they would never intellectually, as far as being a leader, they could never come close to this lady. She knows what she's doing, and I do believe that she's okay with people underestimating her too. Because they underestimate her. Look where she's at. They would have never imagined that she would go up there on Fox. They also wouldn't imagine that she would have walked across the stage for the only time Trump allowed a debate, that she would walk her ass right across that stage to his podium and put her hand out in his face and bewilder him. You see, Trump was so old he couldn't even meet her ass in the middle. He was just, unconfident. Trump was totally unconfident in that debate. So Kamala Harris is extremely confident. She seems like she's totally capable, 100% capable. And I think the people that underestimate her, they do have issues with misogyny. They got issues with, they're looking at women the wrong way. Every woman is not there for you to screw. The value in a woman is not her sex. And I think a lot of men simply look at women from that perspective. If they can't get sex with you, or you're not sexually appealing to them, or you remind them of a woman who didn't give them some sex, or dissed them and was like, yo, you're not good enough for me, things like that. I think a lot of men take that shit personal, but that means they're misogynistic, because what they should be looking at her for is her experience, her ability to understand the task at hand, her intellectual capacity, her hold on the job. And you know, also how she articulates her positions. Can she articulate her thoughts? These kind of things. And I think her walking right up there in Fox News, basically, it should be a clear indication to anybody that is just trying to be fair that she can do that, no problem. And I think Putin would be fearful of her. I think Putin would respect her more than he respects Trump. I think the president of China would respect her more than Trump, because they both know Trump is a fucking pushover. You know what I'm saying? And they can see Kamala Harris is not. She ain't going for it like that. You know?
You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we have been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that.
She had to stop this dude from cutting her off so many times. It's just like, I don't think there's been one question where he didn't just try to cut her off, you know, right in the middle of her answer, you know. Yeah.
The vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people.
That is about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly.
You see that? He just did it again. He just did it again. And it is because she's a woman, obviously, because these same men, they never cut off Trump at all. He just rambles and rambles and rambles.
Exhausted of Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying.
Leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people.
That is about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say.
Look, okay, so who did this poll? This is the Marquee. This is the Marquee poll. So let's look up what that is, because again, these polls are very tricky. So let's look it up. Marquette. Okay. On average, how many respondents does the Marquette pollsters use in their polling nationally? Let me see here. Come on now. Oh, did I not do it right? Okay, let me go to the other one. Sorry, 2 seconds. I'm going to pull it up here. Okay, here we go. Let's put it in this one. Let's go. Something went wrong? That's funny. Okay, let me 2 seconds. I want the answer to that question that I just asked. So okay. Let me try to do this one again. Wow. Something just happened to my oh, okay. Am I not signed in? Maybe that's what it was. Oh, here it is. Now it's working. It must be the internet. Sorry. Okay, let me look this up real quick. What? Okay. Something not working right. So let me try to find it here. I'm just going to go directly to one of their polls and see. Okay, Marquette poll accuracy. Let's read a little bit of something about that. Okay. I can find this one. It's Marquette University. It's a law school. Okay. Now let me just see if I can find a poll that says the respondents, the amount of respondents. Okay. Is there a poll up here? Releases media kit to the. Okay, EDU poll. Yeah, let's go to that one. Category. Okay. Now let's see. Marquette National School Court poll. Okay, Supreme Court poll. Let's do that. Let's look at that one. And then now I should be able to see if I go how many respondents. Let me see here. Percent valid, percent cumulative. Okay. Are you ready? Where is ballot? Okay, let's say Trump versus Harris. Now, does it say how many respondents? Okay, let me see. I have to ask you like this. How many respondents does the Marquette poll university polls generally have? About the poll. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, let me see if I can find another one. Can I find it? I'm sorry to hold it up, everybody. 2 seconds. I'm almost there. Something happened online with the internet. Maybe I have to log out of ChatGPT. Okay, let me put this question in one more time. I think it's ready now. Hopefully it is. Okay, it's ready. Now, check this out. Now, this is very important for y'all to understand this, because I'm not bullshitting with this. Let's see. Let me pull the poll up and show you what it says here. And a lot of people do not know this, but it's about the respondents. You know, when you're listening to what they say about the polling, you have to ask the question, how many people did they ask? And that term is called respondents, right? Yeah, so here we go. Let's listen to what they say regarding the respondents. Is it coming up in the Marquette poll? Let's see. Okay, stop screen sharing. I'll do that for a second. Then I will put this one back up. Here it is.
Marquette University Law School poll typically uses a sample size of around 800 to 1,000 respondents for its national polls. This size is considered sufficient to provide a margin of error of about 3 to 4 percentage points, which is standard for public opinion polling. However, the specific number can vary depending on the particular poll and its focus, such as statewide versus national polling.
Okay. Now, how many respondents were utilized in the Marquette poll, asking voters, what is it about? Moving forward? Is that what they called it? Let's see here. They called it moving forward, right? Where is it at? Is it up here? Let me see what that poll says. Oh, it's not there anymore. Okay. Let me see here. Voters about changing direction. I think that's what they said. I didn't make a complete sentence. It's gonna. Okay, there we go. This was October 1st. Exactly. Now let me play that to you guys.
In the recent Marquette Law School poll conducted from October 1st to October 10th, 2024, a total of 1,005 respondents were surveyed. This national poll aimed to gauge voter sentiment, including opinions on whether the country is headed in the right direction or on the wrong track. 8 source, 9 source.
Okay.
If you want more detailed insights or specific findings from the poll, you can check the full results on the Marquette Law School
What
website.
region, town, or locations was that poll taken? Okay, let's see here. Here we go.
The Marquette Law School poll regarding voter opinions about changing direction was conducted statewide in Wisconsin. This specific poll, released on October 2nd, 2024, surveyed Wisconsin voters and examined various political races, including the presidential race between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. 16 source.
All right, there you have it. So now we got the answer for that. So it's just 1,000 people. 1,000 people in Wisconsin. That's the poll that's the poll average that they received. Now let me go back over to here. Now, so when you see them discussing this matter, right, and pulling out the polling, Fox News, because anybody can do that. Usually people pick out the polling they want to show, right? So Fox News is obviously doing that, and they will be really, really biased. They won't go to the center polls to find a poll that suggests what the average person thinks. They will go all the way, to the right, the worst poll, the most extreme poll.
Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
Voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're.
So let me get back to that part so we can
Whereas
see
judgment
where's it at here?
on increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam
That
Vice President, more than
turning the page.
70% of people
That is
tell
about turning the
pollsters-
page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than
People are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track.
Now he said 70%. So this is the point. 79% obviously see, you just have to ask, do 79% feel that way? And what does that question mean? How did they come to determine what is on the wrong track? Right now, this poll, there was 1,000 people that answered it only in Wisconsin. That's what's up with this poll. So, you have to consider that. And this is not the polling that is considered the most reliable polling. I mean, and as a matter of fact, let me see. Let me ask this question. I was just looking into that yesterday. What are the most reliable election polls? In the USA. Let's see here. Let's see if that even pops up as one of them. There's the Gallup poll, right? Let's see here. Oh, they actually say the Marquette is also one. Damn. Okay, then there's the Quinnipiac. Why didn't they mention? Wait a second. There's some other polling here. Yeah, but sometimes you have to ask a few different times about the polling. Let me see. Maybe that's national polling. Um, but in any case, Marquette School is number 3, right? It's not number 1 or number 2. That would be the Pew, and that would be the Pew Research Center and the Gallup, according to this. And then, right, exactly, electoral politics. Yeah. So that's number 3. But in any case, the poll was done in Wisconsin. As you can see, it doesn't say that here, right? So when you look at it, it says direction of the country. They did the polling. They had 1,000 respondents. And let me just double check this again. Do I see? Right. See, they don't tell you that it's just in Wisconsin, right? So, and this is among likely voters, right, in Wisconsin. So, and 70%, 79% say the country's on the wrong track, right? Now, what does that mean? What does it mean on the wrong track? Exactly how? How is it on the wrong track? Does that mean that 79% do not like Biden and Harris? Does it mean 79% don't like how Congress does its business, being partisan? What does it mean? Does it mean the economy is not good enough? What does it mean exactly? But in any case, uh, so Pumpkin, you gonna hop up? Because I'm about to cut it short now. So I've been about almost 3 hours now. So let me know if you're gonna hop up, and then yeah. And so, folks, I commend Kamala Harris. I really do. I really dig the fact that she made it to Fox. It showed that she's not ducking and dodging like Trump is. She's been very active, by the way. I mean, Kamala Harris. She's doing rallies and small town meetings and these one-on-ones every single day. She's showing up at a new state doing something, and in some states it's two it's two different things that she's doing, you know and so I will give a hard worker credit. She's working harder than Trump. She wants it more than Trump, and I think that is Trump's that's the problem he's having, is that somebody else wants it more. He doesn't seem to me like he's running really trying to win. If you ask me, Trump doesn't seem like it, and to me, he doesn't seem like it, and he just seems like for some reason he's running for something else. You know, um, so it just doesn't seem like he's running to be the president. He might be running to get the comforts of the presidency, but he doesn't seem like he's running like a person that wants to govern or do the work of governing. Because to do that, you got to be sharp. You got to be hungry, and you have to be sharp. You definitely have to be sharp. And Trump is not sharp at all. He cannot answer questions at all. He does ramble. He doesn't stay on topic. You ask him about the economy, he's going to talk about the border, or he's going to talk about immigrants, or he's going to talk about transgenders. I mean, that's just Trump. So let me let this rock out, and then see if Pumpkin can get it together. We give her a couple more minutes.
Circles on the staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
after George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought.
Yeah, this right here is kind of a weird question for this guy to ask, because she's right. Kamala Harris is totally right. Biden is not on the ticket. So this guy is pivoting to talk about Biden why don't you interview Biden? But she's running for the presidency, so of course she would want her time used like a boss would want it used. Ask her questions about what she's going to do. And I think when you ask about something, I mean, first of all, it's weird, to ask when you have Trump there, did you ask him about his anything? Does he even get questions like that? And I mean firsthand, does he get questions like that? But here, this was one thing if you get it firsthand, ask Biden about his capacity. But you already know if Kamala Harris thought that there was something wrong with his ability to govern, then she would obviously say it because she's the vice president. That's the vice president's job. It's so obvious of how weird of a question it is. It's a setup question. She's trying to get her to diminish Biden's record, and that's the thing about it. You could criticize his record, but to try to diminish his ability to govern is insane because he's governing right now. So, yeah, so I'm gonna check out and I'll be back. I won't be back maybe later on today, but I appreciate everybody. If not today, I'll be back tomorrow. We on the same business as you can see. And yeah, I will wrap it up. Let me throw some music on. I'm gonna let Kamala Harris take it out a little bit.
Thought
Right?
this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, in the several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel, I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
but those
is,
proxies were getting
and
funded
my
by
commitment to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates
and then
in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration
go towards
that
the Iran regime.
That we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers
suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention
Madam
how
Vice
Donald
President,
Trump has,
all of this money
has treated
that
and
has
talked
gone
about
in the
America's
past few
military
years.
and military service people,
Critics
calling
say
them
that it goes to
suckers and
Hezbollah,
losers,
Hamas,
has diminished
and
the
Houthis.
significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision
and there are critics
that they feel
who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things
There's more to say. I have much more
there
to
are
say,
a lot of
actually.
things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and
Yes.
that's why we
I
invited
invite
you
everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
And that's why
intend
we
to do to
invited you
strengthen
here,
our economy,
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military, and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
And
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. The way you take chances, believing in the best romances. It's dumb the way you keep it realer than real. The way your mind takes journeys that heal. Daring to find truth so your soul can feel. Dumb. Not dumb from ignorance, but dumb from benevolence. Dumb from intelligence, yes, dumb from relevance. Yeah, you're dumb. Dumber than the Native American beating his war drum. Dumber than the rich man that stays in the slum. Dumb enough to throw away everything just to be a bum. You're dumb.